Appreciate you
Contagious
having me.
Thoughts Podcast. Oh man. So with me today is a very special guest. And I know listeners are gonna tell me I say that all the time because I think everybody is special, but guys, I'm telling you, today we got I'm not gonna hype it up because you build up the hype and then expectations are super high. Let's just put our money where our mouth is and just deliver. But you guys will see really soon, why I have this gentleman on here today. So in front of me today, I have someone who is a chemical engineer by trade, but who then took a chance on real estate during COVID back in 2020, and this led to over 100, yes, I said 100 wholesale deals. And then he then transitioned his business into flipping properties, which we all have those dreams. We watch HGTV and we feel like we can do it too, and we have somebody in front of us who made that possible. Not only did it, but 30 30 of them, 30 flips. And how many people do you employ right now?
About 7 or 8. You-
Employ 7 or 8 people, meaning they're able to provide for their families. He's a father of three. He's a husband. He's a man of discipline, passion, dedication, and hard work. He's someone who I personally call for advice and perspective when I'm struggling through things as a as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And he's the owner and founder of Howard Property Development, which is a premier real estate company that does renovation, rehab, remodeling, finds people, new homes, as well as helps them sell their properties. And he's experienced in both residential and commercial real estate. And he's well known in the community and respected in the community because he offers affordable education. I said affordable, and we all know today that's hard to come by.
Yes, it is.
Everybody's trying to get theirs, but he offers affordable education for folks trying to come up in the real estate industry. New entrepreneurs, business owners, and aspiring real estate professionals. I have guys, Thurston Howard, aka Thirst.
Appreciate you, brother, man. Appreciate you. That was a very profound introduction. I like it. I like it.
Hey, you're a profound dude, man. You're a profound dude. So I'm grateful
Nah, I
to have you.
appreciate it.
I'm grateful to have you, man.
Look, man, thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
We are a lot closer than people think that we are, but this
Yep.
was like, look, I know you were doing it, so I'm like, hey, man, you got to get me on. We got to do something.
Yeah.
Let's make it make sense.
Absolutely.
But thank
Yeah.
you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I love and respect what you're doing, brothers. Same path, you're taking a chance, doing something different that you haven't done. So
Yeah.
it can be a rough path at times, but
Yeah.
it's you're finding your purpose in what you want to do in life, and that's awesome. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Thank you. And so I'll just get this out the way too. Just kind of how we know each other, And so
Okay.
honestly, I
Okay.
know we've known each other since I want to say like 2013, maybe
2014, 2013. Yep.
2014, somewhere around there.
Been a
And
decade.
that's
Definitely been
yeah,
a
that's a good.
decade.
It's a 2024, so now
That's
we
tough.
we have, we have at least a decade,
Right.
And so Thurston's wife and my wife have actually been close friends since high school. They were matron of honors in each other's weddings. I actually remember sitting across the table with my wife next to me, Thurston and his wife. I think at the time she was my girlfriend, and your wife. I think you guys were dating at the time as well. I don't think either one of us were engaged at the time.
Right.
I remember sitting across the table at Max Brenner, downtown Philly. On
Yep.
what is that? That must be Walnut Street. Yeah.
They have some
Uh,
amazing waffles, by the
oh
way.
my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
They have some amazing
Yeah.
waffles. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Their food, anything that I don't think you can go wrong there. To be honest, I haven't been in probably almost a decade,
Respect that.
but it's
Right.
it's 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 slamming. And I remember that in your oldest kid was sitting at the end of the table, and I remember she wouldn't even talk to me. Like she wouldn't even look at me.
It's it.
She didn't want now she loves me, but she didn't want to she
Right.
didn't want to see me.
Yeah.
Um, and from that time, I just remember that you were were you working in Jersey at the time? You were doing, lab work. You were chemical engineer. You were still in that area of your the kind of your profession and your career. And I just remember, like, every time I talked to you about how work was going, how things were going, like, it was never like, you never seemed happy with, like, what was going on. It never seemed smooth. It never seemed There's always some type of drama or something going on.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, man, this guy is so intelligent and, like, experienced, and he has the same degree I have, except I did mechanical engineering. And he just hasn't found, like, his stride. Like, he hasn't found happiness or peace in what he's
Right.
doing. Then, you remember, you moved to, got engaged, got married, you moved to Southern Virginia, Virginia Beach area, still
Mhm.
kind of, working in that same general area, but still kind of working with the shipyard as a lab
Yep.
technician, all that kind of, you know, and still same thing. Like, it was like, even that move, like, it was still kind of the same thing. Like, it didn't seem like you ever found complete peace,
Right.
and I remember thinking to myself, like, this guy deserves better for his life. And then 2020 comes around, and I'll stop talking here, and I like you to kind of tell your story. You know what I mean? Like, tell your story,
No,
and
absolutely.
kind of what was happening around that time, and kind of from then, how all this got started.
Right. So I'll back up just a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Um, when I got married in 2018, one of my cousins, which is like my brother, um, he was already doing some real estate stuff in
Yeah,
Baltimore. So, you know, at the time, he was a magistrate judge in Northern Virginia,
oh
and
wow,
I think Fredericksburg.
that's my hood, man.
So that's your hood, right? So he quit, and so some of my family members are like, they know me and him are close. They're like, why did he quit his job? And for me,
Wow.
I knew he had to be doing something to
Right,
just quit that kind of job.
right, right.
So when he talked to me, he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm doing real estate. This is what I'm doing." And so I was intrigued. I'm like, give me the information, man. Just tell me what's going on. Like, no, break it down for me." He was like, "Nah, I'm gonna wait till after you get married. After you get married, you get settled." Nah, really, this is exactly what he
Wow.
said to me. So he said, I'm gonna talk to you afterward. So I'll say maybe 5 or 6 months after I got married, he presented the idea to me, kind of told me exactly what he was doing. And my cousin is one of those type of people that he wants to see you put in the effort and the work before he really does something for you, which I respect.
I respect
Because
that. Yeah.
nobody wants to waste their time,
Right. Right.
giving somebody
Yeah.
information and doing something knowing it's going to be wasteful. So I
Yeah.
think he's seen my drive to kind of want to understand it more, and that was wholesale. So
Yeah.
he kind of gave me
Yeah.
some gems. He gave me some little, some breadcrumbs. He said, "Hey, man,
Yep.
look this up, do this," and I kind of took it from there. So when 2018 hit, well, I'm sorry, 2019 hit, I was working at the shipyard. So I was called a deck plate engineer. So I worked on
Yeah.
submarines. So for me, my job had picked up so much that I was like working every single weekend for the first, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months. Working every
Wow.
weekend, overtime after overtime. So that year, me, my wife, and the kids, her family, we went to Disney at the end of 2019. And I
Yeah.
remember just talking to her like, this ain't it. This ain't it. I got to do something else. Right.
Yeah.
So I had already applied for a few other jobs within the company. So we got back from the break, beginning of January. I had an interview January 7th, no, January 8th, for it was like a higher tier engineer to make more money. So I'm like, okay, if
Yeah.
I get it, I'll do the job. It's an office job. I won't be like on the waterfront, actually on submarine. I'll
Yeah.
just be behind the scenes. So I interviewed. There was 8 of us. They offered me the position.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but the money didn't make sense, man. And that was my whole perspective was okay, if I move up, I'll make more money. And essentially I was making more money, but it was a salary based position. And where I was working, I worked a ton of overtime.
Yeah.
So,
That's a big difference. Yeah.
for the sake of argument, let's just say, hey, I needed to pay my credit card down. I can go and work overtime the next 2 weeks and get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus salary, there was no overtime. This is what I kind of made.
Right. Right.
So it didn't make sense financially. So for me, I said, you know what? I'm gonna turn the position down. What I'm gonna do is focus on real estate, which is what I really wanted to do at that time. So let
Okay.
me focus, lock into what I'm doing, and let me see where it takes me. So I went to work 8 hours a day. I didn't work any overtime, and I focused on real estate. Within the first 3 weeks of me doing that, I got my first property under contract, wholesale deal.
Wow. And this
And
is
I'll
wait,
even take it a
this
step
is
further.
2020 now, right?
This is 2020. This is
It's
2020.
2020.
I'll take it a
And
step
what
further.
month was this? What month was this?
This was February, the
Okay,
beginning of
this is
February.
right when things are kind of starting to get a little like
Now
we're starting
COVID
to
wasn't
hear
even mentioned
trickles.
yet.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
COVID haven't
All right.
even, yep. COVID wasn't
Right.
mentioned yet. This was still, regular routine operating at a regular schedule.
Right.
So I found a house. I did what's called skip trace it, which is just look for the owner's information, and it was a church. So the church was located in downtown Newport News. So I kept calling and calling and calling. I just couldn't reach anybody. So I did the unthinkable, and I went to the church service one
There
Sunday.
you go.
I went to
Oh
the
man.
church service.
I love that, man. I love
Went
that,
to the
bro.
church service, Darwin. That's what I did. I was
Yeah.
determined for something to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
went to the church service. I think I bumped into a deacon or somebody, and I said, "Hey, you guys have a property down the street. I'm an investor. I'm looking to purchase that property." And so
Wow.
they were like, immediately, there was no hesitation. Absolutely, we want to sell. And one of the trustees came out to speak to me. He was just kind of giving me some backstory to the property. And he said, yeah, it was under contract. We have some issues with the title, but I think we got the issue resolved. So they said, we had it under contract for 15,000. Now in my mind, I didn't have an offer in my mind. At that
Ah, I
point in time,
see.
I didn't know how to really make offers. That was my first deal. And so
Wow.
I just understood the lower I get it, the more money I could probably make. So I
Right.
ended
Right.
up getting under contract for 15,000. I
Wow.
partnered with somebody. I partnered with somebody, and he actually brought the buyer, and we ended up selling that property for 43,000.
Wow, man.
$43,000.
Yeah.
Yep. So we split the fees, and my first deal, I made $17,000 on my
Wow.
very first wholesale deal.
Wow.
So when that check was called to be picked up, that was literally March 10th. That was the day, like
Wow.
things started getting crazy, and they were like, COVID, this COVID virus is starting to spread, and we don't know what to do. And I was driving in my car listening to the radio on my way to pick up a $17,000 check.
Wow.
So
Wow.
got the check, right? Go home that Monday. My job sends like a bulletin text. And saying, "Hey, we're going into something called liberal leave, meaning you can come to work if you want, but if you don't want to come to work, you won't be penalized." So I'm looking at this $17,000
Man,
check.
that's like bro. To hear as an entrepreneur, man, to hear that, oh, good night, man. That's
Bro, I'm looking at this $17,000 check like there's no way I'm going to work. Like, it's not happening.
oh
Not
man,
happening.
crazy
So,
man. Yeah,
from then on, it just gave me time. It gave me time to really focus, lock in, because the world was shut down. So I think a lot of America in real estate at that time, I think people were thinking, hey, we may lose our property, or, especially for people who rented out property, people weren't paying rent. So
yeah,
they're like,
right.
we're gonna lose a
Yeah,
lot of money in this real estate game, so we need to just sell. So I was on the phone non-stop, calling, calling, calling. So just to put it in perspective, I ended up then quitting my job. I put my 2 week notice in July, maybe
this is months
July.
later though. At this point, I mean, this is from
Yeah,
February.
a few
So
months
from
later.
March. March is when you first got that notice from them,
Yep.
and then you said July is when you.
July is when I quit.
Wow.
So let me
Yeah.
put it in more perspective. From July, I mean from March until July, I think I made maybe $60,000 wholesale.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
$60,000. That was my whole entire year's
That's a
pay,
year
and I
salary
made
for
it
some
in
folks,
three or
man.
4 months.
My gosh, man.
So it was a
Like,
no-brainer for me. It's like I'm going to do this. That's where I set my mind. I'm going to do this. I can do this. Now I just have to figure out how to tweak what I'm doing to make it, extremely consistent. So,
yeah, right,
you
right.
know, and that's really where my drive and my motive came in. And as I became more and more in depth with real estate, learning constantly, just me immersing myself in learning real estate,
Yeah.
I started to come across opportunities. Then I learned about creative financing. Then
Yeah.
I was getting so many properties at the time with wholesaling. I started wholesaling them to some lenders, hard money
Mm.
lenders, private
Yep.
lenders, cash people that lend out money.
Yeah.
So a lender was like, "Hey, man, you're selling us all these deals. Why aren't you keeping some?"
Mm.
And it kind of sparked my interest. I'm like, "You're right. Why am I not keeping it?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had a conversation, and I needed to learn how the money aspect of it worked because I never knew how it worked.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking you're fronting a bunch of money. But no, man, it was as simple as, hey, this is what you put down. We front the purchase price of the property, and we give you the rehab cost, and you're just putting down a small percentage.
Yeah.
And so from then on, I kind of just took that and ran with it. I got a partner. His name's Travis, man. My
Hey.
like me and you, good,
Yeah.
good, good brother, good dude.
Yeah, man.
Showed me everything. Everything I needed to be shown, I kind of been under his wing and learning real estate from that aspect.
Wow.
And so,
Yeah.
so from 2020 to about I'd say the end of 2021, it's kind of that was like my wholesale era. Then I decided like, hey, I gotta pick it up. I gotta start doing more, getting more. And so
Yeah.
real estate comes in phases, right?
Right.
Wholesaling is like
Yeah.
the ground level of learning. You make money, and what's funny is a lot of lenders, a lot of rehabbers, developers, they want to learn wholesaling because
Mm.
it's less stress, right?
Yeah.
It's
Less risk.
you
Yeah.
are
I mean, you
flipping contract.
right. You're not
So
having to come out of pocket up front like you would, like people
right,
might think you typically do with real estate,
right, right. So there's so many strategies. There's so many strategies. And I know you got questions and some things you got in order, so I'm not gonna overstep. But yes, there's
You
a
could.
there's a lot of things that we're gonna talk about that
Oh yeah.
will definitely open some people's eyes. I would say.
Yeah, no, and honestly, that's I'm glad you mentioned that because we have a Patreon group. It's called the Contagious Collective, and so this is a group where they get access to unreleased episodes, exclusive content, kind of behind the scenes, questions that I get to ask, guests that come on the
Okay.
show, and I reached out to some of them and just asking for, letting them know that, hey, Thurston's coming on the show. This is his experience. This is his background. Do you have any questions for him? And believe me, I got a ton of questions,
Okay.
that,
Let's
that
go.
cover everything that you just had. But before we go there, I
Right.
really think it's important. I really think it's important that people understand that and it's important for me as well that when it comes to business entrepreneurship, yeah, like there's the business side of things, there's what you have to learn, but we're still human at the end of the day. We're still people. We still have personal
Absolutely.
lives. We still have other things that we're juggling. At the
Mm.
same time, we're trying to pursue our goals. So for myself, I'm a father. At this point in time, I have two daughters. One's 5. One's going to be 2 next month, and I have a son on the way. My wife is very, very pregnant right now. So a third kid on
Boy,
the way.
yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm running, businesses and trying to pursue my goals and my dreams and the vision I have for my life. And there's all these things are intention and constant
Hmm.
tension, and I just wanted you know, to dial into some of that aspect before we dive into some of the real estate details, because I think it's just so important for people to keep in mind, and it's important for me. And that's
Right.
actually a lot of times, when I'm calling you up and being like, "Hey, man, I need some perspective,"
Hmm.
it's because you also, are a father of three and a husband and have a lot going on in your personal life. You
Yeah.
have to juggle. That's constantly in tension with what you have going on in business. You know, and so I think one of the one of the first things that I think would be really valuable for everybody is some folks listening are already entrepreneurs. They're newer in the game. Some folks are considering starting their own business, pursuing their dream. And I think that there's a perception out there, when you watch social media and you see the highlights, and it looks so polished, it looks easy, it looks very desirable, but there's a reality that I don't think is always talked about. And I'm curious your perspective on the difference between the 9 to 5 life where you have a steady paycheck coming in, hey, every other Friday or whatever, twice a month, I'm getting that check, and it's the same amount of money, or it's overtime, whatever it is, steady check coming in, versus the entrepreneurship life or the business life, where sure you can own a property and have that consistent money coming in, but really you get paid when you close business. That's the way it works. And I'm
Yep.
just curious, kind of, your I guess experience with that, your perspective with that, and also just any words of advice you can give to folks who are trying to follow in your footsteps.
Okay. Well, it's a big difference for starters
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
9 to 5 and entrepreneurship. It's a big
Yeah.
difference. One major difference is scheduling. You get up every day, you go to work, and let's say 7 to 3:30. You know exactly what you're going to get on the paycheck, right?
Yeah.
If you have kids or a wife or whatever, there's a schedule that we all follow. The difference between that and entrepreneurship, there is no schedule. If I
Mm.
decide, hey, I'm not taking any calls after 3:30, I could potentially miss a bunch of business that I could have
Mm.
gotten, right?
Mm.
So that perspective is, they say entrepreneurs are hustlers, and essentially we are. I'm
Yeah.
just learned this year that, after for me, 10 o'clock, I put my phone on do not disturb.
Right.
Now, it's funny because last night me and my wife had a conversation. And she's like, "Oh, I thought you were done doing business at 10 o'clock." I'm like, "Yes, but I'm up." And somebody texts me, sent me a
Right. Right.
deal. Hey, can you look at this vanity? Which one should we? So it's like if I'm up, I'll take it. But for the most part, it's a juggle between your time and really your reality. And what I mean by reality is we all want to just operate at a certain time, but the reality is with entrepreneurship, you just can't do that. You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
try, but the most successful ones where they say, you've seen clips or interviews and they say, the entrepreneurs can't sleep. And that's kind of true. Depending
Mm.
on the industry that you're in, and whatever business
Right.
that you're doing. But it's one of those things that you can't put a timestamp on it, you know?
Right.
You just can't
Right.
put a timestamp on it because business really never stops for us. So it's not like we work 8 hours and we get paid for it. Nah, it
Right.
don't work like that. It just
Right.
doesn't work that way.
Right.
But
Right.
in perspective, I know for me, I look at it like, okay, if I invest 8 hours a day on my business, it will be successful. Some
Right.
days I have longer days, right?
Right.
Some days I'm like in my office in the house all day long,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I might have
Yeah.
written up 7 contracts. I might have called 150 people. And it's like if I just limited myself, that day just required a lot more energy from me because I was maybe on the edge of getting a deal and it didn't happen. Now I got to make up for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the advice that I would just say is use your time wisely. So for me, I'll give an example. Wife goes to work, she drops the kids off in the morning time. So all the kids get
Yeah.
dropped off, let's say 7:30. She goes to work from 8 until 3:30 ish, maybe 4. So within that window of the family being gone, and I pick the kids up from school around 2:20, I have to use my time wisely. Like, of
Mm.
course, I can just sleep in and just say, I'm not getting up until 11, right?
Yeah.
Now that gives me 3 hours or 2 hours to actually do
Uh,
work,
right.
right?
Right.
So for me, I'm an early bird anyway, like we talked about. Like I'm up at 5 a.m. sometimes,
Yep.
not all the time. Don't give me that much credit. Not all the time, but
I mean, hey, yeah.
but I'm an early person. I like to get my day started early. We start the day off by reading a Bible verse every single morning,
Oh, that's
whether
cool.
it's in the house or when the kids are on their way to school. We read a Bible verse. That kind of gets my day started and rejuvenated, and it
Yeah,
puts me in perspective of, all right, what my purpose is. So,
yeah,
it's just usually a pound wiser, really. That's like the biggest thing. I think a lot of people don't really understand because as an entrepreneur, you do have a lot of time, and that time can be taken for granted. You may think you have more time, but especially having a family, kids, wife, it's they require your time as well. So
facts.
I don't
Yeah,
want to spend the rest of the day if I got up at 11, let's say I picked the kids up and I came home, I do have a good portion of the day to continue working, but now they're requiring my time. Hey, dad, can
yeah,
you do my homework with me? I want to go outside and play basketball or ride my bike or whatever. And so entrepreneur has allowed me, honestly, in my opinion, to be a better father in ways
yeah.
because I have more time versus when I worked at the shipyard. My schedule was 6 to 2:30, but I had to get up at 4:30 a.m. to be
Mm,
at work by 5 just to get a parking spot,
yeah. Wow,
right?
wow.
So once
Yeah,
I got off at 2:30, 3:30 some days, now I has to get the kids off the bus because my wife works until 5, right? Get the kids off the bus, pick one up from school, and I'm not getting home till 5-ish, maybe
wow.
5:30 some days,
Yeah,
right? So it's like I've just been up for a good 12 hours. I'm
right,
tired. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to do this. I just want to relax because now I got to be in bed by 9:30, 10 just to get back up at 4
right,
a.m.
right, right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, that routine starts to get old. It starts to be
Yeah,
like, damn, man, I got to get up and go to work. Now, obviously, like you and me, we are providers for our family. So
yeah.
we just got to suck it up and get it done.
Got to do it.
But you got to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
You got to do it. But I found a niche in doing this where I'm able to put aside a lot of time for business and be successful at it and have time for my family to give them
yeah.
my undivided attention. And, my son, who's 5, he plays basketball now. And just most of you don't know, but I was an athlete. I was a basketball player. I
Hey,
played at Hampton University
there you
for two
go. Yeah,
years. So, it gives me joy seeing him play. So, I went out and did a bunch of extra stuff. Got a basketball goal in the backyard. I bought him new sneakers and tights and Nike socks and outfits and all this other stuff,
yeah, man.
so, you know,
Yeah, those of you, if you're just listening to this interview, you're not able to see the big smile that came on his face when he was talking about that, and I think
absolutely.
that, it seems like on one hand with entrepreneurship that, you know, even though you don't have like, there's not the steady paycheck coming in, there's you have to go and get it, there's, you know, you start running out of money and you're like, okay, what other business can I close now? You're looking
Right,
for, okay, I don't want to, I want to make sure that my family stays in a good enough, in a comfortable place. And so I want to have my phone still on at, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night to see if, and if I get a text in or I get an opportunity in, I'm going to work on that because I want to keep
right,
that flow coming to keep my family good. On the other hand, though, so there is that sacrifice. On the other hand, though, there's the ability to kind of create your schedule and
right,
figure out where are those pockets where I have dedicated time that this is for my kids or this is for my wife or whatever it is. More
right,
flexibility. You get to create your own schedule rather than that schedule being created for you.
right,
And I think it comes down to preference and personality. Like some people are just not built for that. Some people
right.
are like, hey, I need the structure to be given to me.
Yeah,
They just don't have the discipline or yeah, I guess the discipline really,
right.
to do that.
And I want
And
to
I
touch on
think,
that real quick
please,
that you
please
said that.
do.
That's that's a very good take because I think a lot of people. So I always say this, right? One of my sayings is people want opportunity,
Yeah.
but they don't know when the opportunity comes if you're not ready to receive it. If that makes sense,
Mm. Wow. Drop
right?
the bar on us.
So, for instance, I'll give you an example, right? So, if you're a person, you're like, man, I'm looking for another job. I'm looking for another job. I want to make more money. But, you know, let's say you don't have license or,
Yeah.
you have something on your background that's hindering you from getting it, but you want another job. And another job comes along and says, hey, we want to hire you. You're not ready to receive the opportunity because
Yeah.
you don't
Right.
have all of your stuff, lined up the way you should. So I think a lot of people, want opportunities. And I think for me, the difference is I was just ready to receive my opportunity. I had
Okay.
put in my time, I put in my work, and you know me for years. I'm not a lazy person. So
Yeah. There you go.
I'm constantly searching for the next thing to provide a better life for my family. And so when that opportunity came to get in real estate and really do something, I just made the most out of it. That's
Yeah.
literally all I did.
Yeah.
So, but also too another point that you touched on was you were saying people don't have the moxie to really be entrepreneurs, meaning they need the structure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and boy, I tell you, 2022 was the year that I really figured out for a lot of people because I was trying to bring everybody up with me, right? I was
There
trying
you
to
go.
bring
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
up with
Wow.
me. I'm like, hey, agents and different people, hey, come work with me. I'm getting deals. And when really looked at it, my work ethic still by far was the reason why I was getting so many opportunities, why
Mm.
I was getting deals. Since I
Yeah.
was constantly working. I wasn't sitting
Grinding.
still and just waiting for the opportunity to drop out of the sky. Right.
Yeah.
So when I
That's
started
real.
working
Yeah.
with people and I would give them, hey, I have this list, hey, it's 150 properties, call this list. And I don't hear from them for 3 weeks. It takes
Oh
me two
wow.
days to do a list of 150
Oh man.
properties to call. That's because I'm locked in. I'm putting forth the effort and I'm using my time. And no shade on anybody if you listen to this. No shade on anybody. I 100% get it. But the truth is
Yeah.
the truth, right? A lot of us aren't successful in different fields or ways because we're just not putting in enough time to be successful. Success
Yeah.
just does not happen overnight. It's a consistent, constant flow of energy that you use to put into a business. So
Right.
a lot of people just don't understand that, right?
That's
And
real,
so
man.
it's just one of those things that, um I don't know if you're like a Nipsey Hussle fan. I was a huge fan, RIP Nipsey Hussle. But he said something not one time, not to me, but in an interview where he said I didn't do anything profound. The only thing that I did was stay consistent, right, with what I'm
Yeah.
doing. He said you're gonna go through every emotion when you come with doing what you're supposed to do or doing what you want to do in
Yeah.
life. So there's going to be hurdles, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be a lot of things. And I know for me, I'm not even gonna lie, I probably reach every single emotion when doing real estate. I done cried to myself sometimes. I've lost 30, $40,000 at the closing table
Whew.
thinking I'm gonna get it
Mercy.
checked, and it doesn't happen. But
Wow.
only thing that sets me apart is if I continue to go. Right? I have a short term memory. All right, that didn't work out. All right, cool. I gotta keep moving. I gotta keep moving. All right, let me get back on it because wasting. I think sitting around and looking at what it could have been versus where it could be is the
Yeah.
difference between making money in business and not making money in business.
Mm.
So yeah, I just wanted to
That's
give my perspective on it because you said something that really it was like a 2022 lesson or 2023 lessons to me, I should say.
see. What's hilarious about that, and I think it just shows that you and I are in sync, is actually one of the one of the questions I have for you. I was actually scrolling through your IG and I saw that clip that you posted of Nipsey Hussle. And and in that post, he said, I mean, you kind of said it, but like he was talking about how what separates him from others is that mentality of just like, hey, I just didn't stop, you
Right.
know, and uh and what was so funny about, not funny, but interesting about that to me is at the end, he was saying like he adopted the mentality that he would die trying to get to where he was
Yep.
trying to get to.
Yep.
And it's like that, 50 Cent, get rich or die trying.
Mm-hmm.
Except you just
Yep.
replace the get rich with like achieve X goal or
Yep.
die trying. And if it's not
Yep.
money for you, it's whatever that goal is, whatever that vision is, of where you're trying to get to.
Yep.
And looking at that clip, it brought me to the question of, and I'll give you a background as to why I'm asking this question, but it brought me to the question of how long should someone try before they give up on their dream? And just to give some additional color on that question, I actually hate that question, and I'll tell you I'll tell you why I hate it. But I get asked that question when I'm gonna pursue something and I'm sharing my vision with somebody, which we can talk about that a little later. But and I'm sharing my vision with somebody, and they're like, oh, "Okay, well that's a cool idea, but how long are you gonna try that? Like, if it's not working, how long are you gonna try that before you give up, before you stop and be like, hey, this is not working, you're doing something else?" And I think that the people that tend to ask me that question are typically people who are not entrepreneurs, or people who
Hmm.
are not, they're not, they don't have the same mindset as me. They're not trying to
Right.
accomplish the same goals, and they're comfortable with the life that they have. And I'm happy for them, and they should stick with the life that they have because they're happy with that. But they look at someone like me who's pursuing a different goal, and they're like, I don't know about that, and they asked me that question. So I was just curious on your perspective as to, just how long somebody should, pursue their dream, before, you know, giving up on it if it's not, they're not seeing the results.
Right. So I have a multi-touch answer. But first, when we started doing this podcast, and I kind of gave you a gesture of 2018, I got the information. In 2020, there was a 2-year stretch I didn't make
Mm,
any money in real estate,
wow,
just to
man.
let the people know.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt like, oh, this is hard, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so it's perspective, right?
Mm,
So, okay. So if you're not successful in something, how long should you, keep doing it until it just doesn't work at all or give up? The answer is never. But the reason I'm
mm,
saying never is because there's different facets of what you can do. You don't
there you
have
go.
to put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Right.
Obviously,
Right.
I had a job. I didn't just quit my job to do real estate and I wasn't successful. I think that's the perception that a lot of people think like, I got to
Right.
give up everything to do this to be successful. No, there's other things you can do in the midst of it. It's just going to be harder.
Yeah.
So I say never, but tweak what you're doing and how you're doing. So if something is not working, stick with the same field, but try something different. So, for instance, I'll give you real estate example, right? And I'm sure this may be a question.
It's all
Um,
good, man. Let
a
it
lot of
fly.
people want to flip. That's the
Yeah.
first question they ask me in my DMs, or they see me like, "Hey man, I want to flip houses." And my first response is, "You have to learn real estate."
Mm,
So you may not have thought about this way of doing it, but try this way because you could probably reach success versus doing it this way. So, very quick backstory: I had a student take my class. Not gonna
yeah.
mention no names. Had a
Yep.
student take my class. This student didn't do didn't use the tools that I gave in the class to do this aspect of real estate. So this student jumped out there because they had funds and they went and did a flip. The flip, they trusted somebody to help them do this flip, not having all of the real estate background because it comes in phases,
Yeah.
and ended up losing $50,000 of their own money
Mm,
because they jumped out there and did
dang.
something they weren't ready for. Right
Dang.
now, I'm not saying it was obviously losing $50,000 is detrimental, but there's a lesson behind it
Mm,
that okay, you want to do this aspect of real estate, but you're not ready for that just yet. You may not be ready for it. Some people jump out there and are super successful, right?
yeah.
But everybody, that just doesn't happen for the norm.
Yeah.
So you have to learn different aspects of what you're doing. So, for instance, if you wanted to do podcasting, I'm sure knowing you, you watched a ton of videos
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
exactly what I should do, how to kind of get in that space before you just jumped out there. And even
Yeah.
if you jumped out there and you weren't successful, you would have switched it up. Like, all right, let me do this different. Let me
Yeah.
try this and be this and get to this. So your
Yeah.
goals are still within arm's reach. You just have to change your course of how you get there sometimes. That's all.
That's real. That's real. And yeah, about so from the time that I first started even thinking about, um starting the podcast to where I decided to start it, meaning start recording episodes, was maybe about 5 months or so. And then from the time I started recording episodes, was about, I want to say, almost 12 months from that
Mm,
time to launch,
mm-hmm.
and so there was definitely a lot of planning, preparation, studying the game, studying other interviewers. Like,
Right.
I'll just give just a free piece of advice for other people who are trying to start podcasts. Obviously, I'm in the beginning of my podcasting journey, and I have a ton of growth to still accomplish. But like, I study other interviewers. I study Dak Shepard, Oprah Winfrey, um, what's his drawing the blank. He did uh the interview with like this guest needs no introduction. What is it? Oh, Dave Letterman. There you go.
They know.
Dave Letterman, like all the um David Shands from Social Proof. Like, I study all these guys and gals, and take from them the things that resonate with me, that I want to
That.
add to my own skill set. And so I totally respect what you're saying, as far as like, hey, have respect for the game. Don't just jump into it and be like, oh, I'm going to squeeze a bunch of money out of this industry. Have respect for the game. Learn it.
Yep.
Have you come in it with humility. Be a student.
Fall in love with the process of learning. That's what
Oh,
I
I
say
like
too.
that. Fall in love with the process of learning, and
Yep.
man, I love that. And I think one of the things that, like, I want to comment on, as far as people asking that question of giving up, I'm the same way. It's never give up on your goals and dreams. That's my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But along the way, be prepared to pivot.
Yep.
Like, if you're just running into a wall, okay, try to figure out a way above that wall to go over it or around it, like, or
Yep.
pivot, move in a new direction. But it doesn't mean you let go of your dream.
Exactly.
And we actually, Jazz and I actually have an episode that we're releasing either this season or next season, that we did on pivoting, in business, just from our experience. And it's a necessary skill. One of the things that I have always wondered, just kind of a curiosity I've had,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm just gonna ask it.
Okay.
Um, I've wondered this from even the time I've been a kid, and I've heard this saying. So people always say, hey, like really ambitious people that have big goals, and whether they're entrepreneurs or whether they're kind of in the corporate world, just people who are super ambitious. They'll say, I'm working so hard for my family. I'm doing this for my kids or for my family. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just curious on your opinion, or your perspective on, do you feel like people really do it just for their family, or do you feel like they do it for themselves, or both?
I say both. I
Yeah.
definitely do it for both. Everything
Yeah.
that I do is not just in our family, because
There
we're
you go.
human,
Thank
right?
you.
We have to
Yeah.
enjoy our lives. We have to get to a space where we are ourselves good for ourselves. So doing real estate is enjoyable for me. I have a passion for it. It puts a smile on my face, good,
Yeah.
bad, or ugly. But I love what it provides for my family, if that makes sense. Like I said, it
Yeah.
gives me time, more time with my family, do more things financially. Me and my wife, so the kids were away. Just a quick story. Kids were
Yeah.
away during the Christmas break. So the kids went to Disney with my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. And
Yeah.
so um, my oldest daughter was up north as well, so he gave me and her time. So we had a whole day where we woke up, we got breakfast, then we went and got
Wow.
massages for 2 hours or 3 hours, however
Wow.
long it was. We went from massage to the movie theater. From the movie theaters, we went to dinner. We have never spent a day like that. And
Wow.
and rightfully so, bro. I probably spent about $500 in that one day.
Yeah.
But it's not even about the money. It's just about the camaraderie that it was
Yeah.
able to provide. Had I had to work, that shit wouldn't have happened. Like if I had a
Yeah.
job, you know what I'm saying? It
Yep.
just wouldn't have happened.
Yep.
So I just think that what it provides for the family is beneficial. And also I can leave some stuff for them, right? As I get into the phase of like holding some properties and keeping some, I can give them a leg up in a sense of when they
Oh
become
yeah.
18, 19, 20, whatever, to continue the business,
Yep.
make money from the business, or you like I said, you just take over and you want to continue to grow it amongst you doing your own dreams. It may not be a dream from there,
Exactly.
but at
Yeah.
least there's something that they can hold on to, for either their kids or they want to continue the business or not or whatever. They're
Right.
able to
Right.
make money from it, and that's the goal. So I think it's both. I think both.
I agree. And yeah, I asked that question because I feel like it's a little like disingenuous when people are just like it's like they want to like it sounds noble. It's like, yeah,
Right,
just do it for the kids, man. It's like, really, just for the kids, like just for the
right,
fam, like nothing
right,
for you. Because if I'm honest too, it's the same thing for me. Like it's I do this for me as well. This is my dream. I
right,
feel it's fulfilling for me. But then at the same time, there's so much that I want to give to my family, and I won't say too much. I try not to mention too much about like my personal like job, my place of employment, because I'm still employed there
right,
at the time of this recording, and also my wife's place of employment. But I
right,
will say this that I love my wife with all my heart, and she deserves better. I will say that. I want better for her, and I know the dreams that she has for herself, and I want to do everything I can to clear the path for her to go and do what she wants to do,
right,
and that in our relationship, I my personality is definitely like more of like the go getter, and so
right,
like that's like natural for me,
right,
and so so hands down, I do it for them. What I'm doing is for them. But a large part of it's also for me. It's just so
right,
fulfilling for me. I love this,
right.
um, and so
And people
yes,
support you. People support you, man. Because I
yeah.
didn't
Thank
even
you,
know
man.
you had an
Thank you.
Instagram until I seen Miss Wise posted.
That's oh really?
Right, I didn't. And
Wow.
and her caption was like, so proud of my son in love. And I was like
Oh
talking to,
man.
to my wife about it. I'm like, "Man, that's amazing to see because you have that support, right?
Wow.
And a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, and I'll just say, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for everybody. There was a transition where my family, in a way, probably didn't think I can do this. You know what I'm saying? They're like, "Why are you
Yeah.
quitting your job? Like, why are you quitting your security?" Me and my uncle actually got
Yeah.
into it a little bit about
Uh-oh.
me quitting my job
Yep.
to do this.
I believe it.
And so everybody's vision for what you're doing is not going to be the same as what you envision it for yourself.
Yeah.
And people just got to
Yeah.
understand that. It's no shade, it's no people are hating or not, especially your family. It's out of love. They want to see you
Yeah.
succeed, but other people's perception of something is not going to be the same as yours. So, in your mind, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I know what I need to do. Let me do XYZ to get here, and then boom. And like what you said was very noble, right? You want better for your wife. And I didn't think about it like that, just being honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was trying to find my purpose and along the way, I was telling my wife, like, hey, let's grow this. But
Yeah.
in the midst of me doing that, I found out that this is not her passion. This
Right.
real estate is not her passion.
Yep.
So I got to give
Yep.
her a shout out because I don't think if I didn't take the chance for myself to do what I'm doing, my wife has two businesses now. She has a
Hey,
slumber party business
go ahead.
and she's a doula.
Go
Like I
ahead.
got to shout her out. Slumber Jam parties on Instagram
Let's go.
and Empowering Birth. She's a doula and she has a Slumber Jam party business. And I'm not saying she wouldn't have done it without me. I just think me pushing the bar a little bit more and opening her eyes a certain way, it kind of allowed her to be like, I can do this, right? She
Yeah.
did a ton of research and looked at stuff. She went and got certified to be a doula, and like both of her business have taken off.
Mm.
And she still works a job part time, but she still works a job.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she's keeping her security. So things like we said about pivoting, it didn't pivot exactly how she wanted it to, but
Yeah.
she's learning, okay, I gotta do this to get here. I want to keep my security at my part-time job while I do both of my businesses. I'm sure it's a lot, excuse me, I'm sure it's a lot for her to do those things. But like you said, if you really want something bad enough, you'll find a way to do it. It may not be
Yeah.
the exact way you plan, but you just have to pivot to make it work for you.
Absolutely. And I just want to just to give a little bit more spotlight to that shout out that you gave for her two businesses. These are in Southern Virginia, correct? In
Southern
the kind
Pennsylvania.
of Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads kind of area, right?
Yep. Correct.
And then can you just say the second business one more time?
So it's Slumber Jam Party on
Hmm.
Instagram, and her second business, she's a doula, which is empowering birth.
There we go. And that's M as in the letter M,
Yep. Correct.
and then powering birth. That's
Yep.
very creative. I like that.
Yep.
Great. All right, I want to make sure she got the proper spotlight.
Okay.
Much love and respect to what she's doing over there. Um,
Absolutely.
and so, speaking of spouses, before we jump into all these spectacular real estate questions that I have from the Patreon folks, uh, you know, I wanted to so so both of us have experience doing business with our spouses,
Yeah.
and myself, yeah, myself, my wife, we, even though like what I'm doing here with the podcast this is just all me. She comes on as a guest sometimes, but kind of our main business, our investment company, we run that together, and it's a major learning curve,
Yes, it
major
is.
learning curve. There's the kind of glorified side of it where it's like, oh, we're doing this cool thing together, like we're pursuing our dreams together. But that also comes with a lot, it comes
Hmm.
with, like I mentioned, a big learning curve. It comes with challenges, and without getting yourself in any trouble or anything like that, just I just wanted you to share your perspective on just your experience with just kind of what your experience of running a business or with your spouse has been in the past, and just any words of advice or nuggets that you can offer the listeners, for folks who are kind of on the front end of considering running a business or starting a business with their spouse or significant other, as
Yeah.
well as um, people who have already started and they're in it right now, and they're
Right.
maybe starting to face some of those challenges.
Right. So without getting in trouble,
There you go. Yeah, that's first and foremost.
um, I think it's really, and I hate to sound cliche, but communication. So
Yeah.
in my mind, it was working one way, like, okay, I got the business. I need you to do this. And in her mind, that's not how it went. And which
Right.
rightfully so is understandable.
Right. Right.
So a lot of times in relationships, marriage, business, we tend to see other people's success and what they're doing. So for instance, like real estate. I know a lot of husbands and wives that do real estate. Husband may flip, wife may be a realtor or a real estate agent or vice versa. And I was comparing the success of what they had going on and trying to mirror it in my own business and not realizing or talking to my wife, hey, do you really want to like do this with me? Do you really
Mm,
want to get involved?
yeah.
Now we did do a deal and she made some money in the business, but what I
Yeah.
realized, it's not her passion, it's mine.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
can't expect certain things out of my wife because it's just not her passion.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
advice really is really, really, really communicate. And like I said, it's cliche, but communication is one of those things. It's not just talking.
Yeah.
It's the act of doing. It's the action behind it. It's
Yeah.
everything. It's, having those conversations with your spouse about what they really want to do.
Yeah.
Or if it's something that you're doing, do you really want to do this with me? And we
Yeah.
have to lay out expectations. And that's something
Mm,
that we didn't
that's
talk
real.
about at first,
That's real.
and when we got into it, it was like, okay, I'll give you a task. I'm expecting it to get done, and it's not getting done because you're just like, well, I'll get to it. I'll do it when I get to it. And for me, it don't work that way, especially
Yeah.
if we're trying to make money. But, there was a difference because I was already making money in the entrepreneur space, and I think my wife didn't realize how strenuous being an entrepreneur was. You don't get a
Yeah.
paycheck every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to constantly work. And I think for her, that was the unsettling feeling. Like, I don't know when I'm getting a paycheck.
Right.
And if I work hard and bust my tail, I want to get paid for it. But an
Right.
entrepreneur, that's just not the reality behind it. It's just not the reality. So the reality is you got to continue putting in work until it works. And I've
Yeah.
created systems and and structure in place, but it's only going to take strong-minded, a strong-minded understanding to how this really works. So I think that if anybody that's getting into the space or any sort of industry with their style, communicate, sets the expectations of what you guys expect from each other. I think it'll make it a lot easier to work together. But the work has to get done, regardless of what happens, regardless if you know your husband left the toilet seat up, ladies, you still have to work with him. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
or if she left some hair on the sink, fella, there's still the camaraderie of business.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah, and that's very real, man. I appreciate you answering that question very delicately. Because we don't want to hear anything, like, hey, what happened to Thirst? I haven't heard from him in a few weeks, so
right.
I'm
And
just
I
playing.
jumped back on with a black eye because I said something I wasn't supposed to say.
Obviously, we're joking for the people
Right.
that
We're
are
just
take
joking. We're
take
just
things
joking.
too serious. We're joking. Okay. And so I feel like I have to give these disclaimers in. But anyway, but no,
Mhm.
I second a lot of what you're saying because for me, it really was. It's like adding an entirely new category to your marriage. Like you got finances, you got intimacy, you got you know um kids if you have kids. There's all these different kind of categories within a relationship. Whether you're
Right.
married or not, and it's like running a business together just adds it's like it felt like one more thing to disagree on or one more thing to fight about
Right.
or it's a whole new dynamic to the relationship that we had to
Right.
navigate, and it felt like we had to learn each other all over again because we were learning a new aspect of the
Yep.
relationship. And now I know you in these different areas, but now I gotta learn you in business. How are
Yeah.
you in business? How are you as a business partner? And one of the biggest things for us was figuring out our roles. And we had to really define like what our strengths are. So looking at my list of strengths and saying, okay, how do we kind of formulate my role to be in line with my strengths? And let's also talk about my weaknesses. Let's not give me a bunch of tasks or make a core part of my role in line with my weaknesses. That's
Right.
not setting me up for
Hmm.
success. And then same with my wife, like having to figure out, okay, what are your strengths, um, you know, and weaknesses, and how do we formulate your role to be in line with that? And that honestly helped us the most. Once we figured out our roles, it helped us the most. And then
Right.
it's just a matter of executing.
Right.
Um, Even though we work differently, like like you mentioned, like, we might have different work ethics, so we approach work differently and
Right.
having the patience to navigate that. And then you mentioned the cliche of communicating, but it's like, hey, anyone who's in a relationship knows that it's a cliche, but it's so real,
It's so vital. It's so
because then
vital.
it's like you have to then communicate through all that to be like, hey, I I have these expectations of like how work is going to be getting done. You have these over there. It's not in line. It's not working for me. Like, how do
Right.
we how do we meet in the middle here and and
Right.
and, and figure this out? So, now I appreciate you sharing that perspective. Um, and so without further ado, I think we can jump into some of these questions from our Patreon,
Absolutely. Let's
aka the
get to it.
Contagious Collective. And I have to also give a shameless little plug here that uh, this VIP group, aka the Contagious Collective, it's $5 a month. I try to keep it very inexpensive, so it's not out of reach for most people, and I do that because I do want to provide value. And the reason why we have this group is really to support the podcast. This is incredibly helpful for the podcast. Folks, when they subscribe, obviously, $5 is not $1 million. It doesn't, you might not think it goes far, but it actually goes very far, especially when more and more people join that group. It really does help support
Right.
the podcast and help this to keep going. Also, if you're listening wherever you're listening, if you're listening on YouTube or you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please leave a review. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platforms, leave a review for us. Check out the website. As you see, I'm sporting some merch here.
Mhm.
This is just the front of the shirt. On the back of the shirt is actually the podcast art and logo um, that's been kind of stripped down by a really incredible graphic designer who did a great job with it. So go on the website, check it out. And with that, we'll transition into some of the questions from our Patreon group. Um, and so one of the questions that I got I thought was very interesting. And it was, is this a money thing for you? Is this a passion thing for you? Or is it both? If you can give
Both.
a little, there you go.
I can
Okay, okay.
immediately say both. That's that. It
Okay,
it
all right.
was okay. So all right, let me give a little bit more detail. From 2018 to 2020, it was strictly money in my mind, and that's why I wasn't successful. The
Mm,
second that I decided to start really learning the art of it, the details behind it, is when I started to be successful money
mm,
wise. So
yeah,
it became a passion for me once I got to that point. So I live, sleep, eat, breathe the real estate. I talk about
yeah,
this nonstop to people. So the people who know, like if we have a conversation, somewhere in that conversation, real estate is going to get brought up somehow, some
yeah.
way. So it's
Yeah,
definitely a
it's like
passion.
you become known as like the real estate guy,
Like,
and that's kind of what you want. You want that to be associated with your name. That's now like a part of you. It's just
right.
it's your main thing. So that's cool. Um, Another question I got was, what do you enjoy about real estate, about your industry, and then what do you not enjoy about it? And then a follow up question to that is, what are some things that you don't that no one really talks about in the space, but you wish that you knew it, so that you can kind of prepare yourself before getting into it. And I can repeat any of those if you need me to.
Okay. Okay. So what do I enjoy about real estate? One major thing I do enjoy, and it's just, y'all might think I'm bluffing or blowing smoke, but I enjoy helping the people. I'll give you an
Mm,
example. When I first got into this space, I didn't know everything I know, but once I got into it, so for instance, wholesaling, right? A lot of
yeah.
people are in situation and they don't know how to get out of it. And they
Mm,
don't think, hey, I can list my property or hey, I can sell my property because it's so run down. No, you can sell it. It's just going to be for a cheaper price. But I've gotten so many people out of situations. People passed away and they had a property and didn't know. So I had to
mm,
walk them through the process down to the courthouse to figure out how to sell. I may have got the property, put some money in their pocket, and they're absolutely fine and great with that. Hey man, you
wow.
saved me from a situation. So
Yeah.
I enjoy the the um the art of helping the people behind it.
Yeah.
So I would probably say that because that just gives me more of a drive to keep going and
That's
doing it.
beautiful. Yeah.
And so one of the things I don't like. So one of the things that I hate is the people in this industry. Not everybody,
Mm,
but
mm,
so many people are money driven, they become sharks. So for
mm,
me, and I don't care who you talk to, anybody you ever talk to, I have never been a money driven person in this industry that I double cross or shark people out of stuff to get what I
mm.
want. That's just
Yeah.
not my MO. I've been sharked before. I had
Yeah.
a person literally lie to my face, and when I got the final closing statement, they made more money than they were supposed to
Wow.
by lying. We all could have made a good amount of money, but you made me take less money so you can benefit. And that's stuff that I
Wow.
just don't tolerate. Right? That's what I
Wow.
hate. That's what I
Wow.
hate.
Yeah.
But what doesn't
Right.
get talked about enough is at the closing table, just because of people sign a contract or they have a lender and they're ready to buy, doesn't mean it's gonna happen. I
Yeah.
have lost, and I'm trying to contextualize it. I've lost probably $80,000 at the closing table
Oh
when
my
I've
gosh.
done step A, B, C, D, E, and then I get to the closing table to close, and it didn't happen. I've lost so much money at the closing table because
Wow.
title issues happen, right?
Wow.
Title issues. Let's say if somebody passed away and they didn't write a will or they went through probate, which is the process of getting a property properly divvied out to the family, and you have to go through the court system. And a lot of times, it's a SAT show because there's just so much
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Um, and also, so I went through a recent situation where we flipped the house, put it up for sale. The first time we put it up for sale for 270, got a buyer. Situation happened with the city, so we had to end up relisting the property for a lower amount and got a buyer for the property. Did the appraisal. The buyer was ready to buy, and the appraisal came in $30,000 less.
Oh
So
man.
we were expecting to get a $45,000 check, and we ended up getting a $15,000 check.
Oh man. Gosh.
So those are the
Yeah.
those are the tough aspects to it. And like I said, it's not all about money, but come on, if you went to work for 8 hours and you're like, I work 8 hours, I know I'm gonna get a $200 check, and your check is $50, and they're like, well, you parked in the wrong parking spot, or you didn't do something. And you're like,
Right. You
wait,
tight.
what?
Right.
Like, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those situations.
No, I appreciate that answer, man. I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I don't care, money driven or not. Like, bills don't pay themselves, so money matters.
That is true.
you know.
That is
Um,
true.
so another question I got is I'm sure you've been itching to talk about this, but is what is creative financing? Just kind of your own kind of definition and kind of breaking it down into how you put it into words
Okay.
that people can understand. And then this particular listener is interested in learning more about seller financing and kind of how to go about it and like what your experience is with it.
Okay. So creative financing is financing outside of a bank or a lender. So the seller becomes the financing. So let me explain. So seller financing. If I own a property or you own a property and your property won't sell at the price that you want, you do what's called creative financing. So you'll say, hey, let's say I'm about to get a property from you. And I said, hey, Darwin, your property is just a little bit too high for me to purchase. Are you open to owner financing? And you say, yeah, I'm open to owner financing. What's your terms? So I'll say, hey, I'll put down $10,000 and I'll pay you $1,000 a month. Now, your property mortgage may only be $400 a month. So
Yeah.
you get the cash flow and you're getting cash down. And the terms of that deal may be over, let's say, 15 years, 10 years or
Okay.
something, right? So you're getting over the amount for the mortgage and you got some cash down, right? So you do that, and let's say the last year you say, hey, I want 6 balloon payments, meaning if there is $7,000 left on that mortgage by year 10 or whatever, or year 9, then the last year of the deal, you make balloon payment. So you pay out,
Yeah.
whatever, divide that by 6, whatever that it may be,
Right. Right.
right?
Six
So it
payments
may
or
be,
whatever.
let's
Yeah.
say, $1,300 that you give payment until that is paid off. So
Yeah.
that's seller financing. Now, sub two, which is subject to financing, is when we take over a mortgage. So let's just say, use you as an example, God forbid it's ever happened, but let's just
Yeah.
say you and Jared get in a situation and you owe so much on the property that you can't sell it for the price that you need to clear the mortgage.
Mm,
So you say, hey man, I can't sell this property. We can't pay for it anymore. I don't know what to do. So I said, okay, cool. We'll do it subject to financing. So what
yeah.
happens with subject to financing is I will give you money for you and Jazz to walk away, 5, 10, whatever, however much money you need to walk away. You'll walk away from the deal, but the mortgage stayed in your name. The
Mm,
deed gets transferred into my business name. So now I have to
okay.
make the mortgage payment. So if your mortgage payments are $1,000 a month, I have to put that in whatever account that you have for the mortgage. I have to put that in an account for
Ah,
it to be
interesting.
paid every single month. So I just take over the mortgage. While you guys walk away, you don't get a foreclosure on your record to where you can't really buy again for a very long time. And it just saves you from going through that whole headache. So
Wait,
that's what
so
creative financing.
you said that the
Your
mortgage
name.
stays in my name, but you get
Yep.
the deed,
Yep.
and
The
then
deed
we
goes in
just
my
have
name.
deed goes in your name, and then
Right.
we have a an agreement between us to say, hey, you're basically gonna pay
Pay
my
the mortgage.
mortgage
Yep.
for me.
Right.
So you
So
pay
let me.
my mortgage
Okay.
for me, and you get the deed in your name.
Right. So the reason why we get the deed in our name, um, is strictly for making renovations. So if your property needs upgrades, I can't pull permits if the deed is in your name.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I can only pull permits if it's in my name. Right. So that's just kind of how it works. Now, obviously, if you're close with somebody and you can say, "Hey, I need to pull some permits. Can you go down here and do this?" But
Right.
it's a security between both, right? Because the
Yeah.
mortgage stays in your name, and essentially, some people are like, "Well, that's sketchy because what if you don't pay the mortgage? Then it falls on me, but the deed is in my name, so the taxes are going to
Mm.
come in my name. You get
Right.
me?
Right. Yeah.
So the taxes to the
Yeah.
property are going to come in my name. That's something that I have to take care of, but financially, it's all on me,
Yeah. And then you have an agreement with that person to say you're gonna pay the mortgage. So
right?
so that's a legal document. If he
That's a
doesn't pay
legal
the mortgage,
document.
you can come after him legally and say, "Hey, you agreed here that
Yep.
you'd pay this. You need to pay." So,
And it all goes
um,
through a closing. To be
right,
clear, it still
yeah,
goes through a closing process. All this paperwork goes into a closing process because they run title. They make sure you don't have any liens or judgments or anything else that'll come up before they do that. So it's all filed down with the city, with an attorney in the city. So it's all legal document.
and then what's the end result? Like, are you holding this property and renting it out? Are you flipping this property?
So it
Um,
depends.
and if you do flip the property, then what happens? Like the new the new people who are like so say you flip the property, then once you make renovations and then you sell the property to the developer, whoever else is going to buy the property, are you then the person who, like, so if we're using that same example, would I then be out of that mortgage because the someone else buys the house? Is that how that works?
Yep. So
Okay.
when you send anything to closing, the closing company runs what's called a title search. The title search shows everything, mortgage balance, whatever. If you have liens, judgments, whatever, all of that gets paid at the closing table. So there's the open mortgage, that mortgage gets paid off
Yeah.
for whatever's left. And to answer your first question, part of that question, it depends whether you keep it or you flip it. So I'm gonna give you a scenario. So if I find a property and let's say they only owe $100,000 on the property, but they just cannot afford the house anymore. I give them 5 grand, I take over and I pay the mortgage. But the after repair value on a house is 300,000, but I gotta put in 20 to 30 grand to make it to upgrade it. That's a great flip. Because essentially,
Yeah.
I don't have to go use lender money unless you don't have the funds to do the renovation. You can go and borrow the renovation money, but obviously you got to pay it back, and that comes with interest. But if there's enough equity in the property to flip it and do that strategy, then that's what you should do. But if you're in a phase of keeping properties, you just got a property for $5,000 down. That's it. You didn't go through a bank. You didn't go through a lender where you got to pay all this money back. You basically, the seller financed you for this deal,
Mm.
but you're helping them out in the same breath because now they're not going to have a foreclosure on their record.
Yeah, that's major. That's major for them. And then it's I like the term creative financing because it's like you're essentially just getting creative with how you go about structuring an agreement so that both parties can benefit.
Right.
Both the investor and the owner of the house or the seller. You know, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Um, you might have me in one of your courses. You know, in the future, man. So
Right. Oh, we
when you
didn't
see
even
my
talk
name
about
pop up.
that neither. We didn't even bring that up.
Oh,
So,
oh yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean,
Go ahead. I'm
you
not
can
going
bring
to
it up now
overstep.
if you want. No.
Okay.
You can bring
So,
it up now, bro. Because I was going to make sure I brought it up. So you might as well go ahead and bring it up now.
okay.
Yeah.
So I offer virtual courses and I offer in-person courses. The course is 3 hours. It's learning how to wholesale and I'm adding creative financing. Now, if somebody specifically wants to learn creative financing, I can do a one-on-one class for them and
Yeah.
explain and go over in terms and all of that good stuff. I can do that virtually, but if but the wholesaling course covers a lot because there's a lot in the wholesaling course that you have to
Yeah.
know to even do creative financing, how to find a deal and all that other
Yeah.
stuff. So I offer classes. DM me or Darwin if you want to know pricing. I have a website,
Yep.
www.howardpd.com, and you can click on services. I think there's a tab in there that says like pricing classes or something like
Yep.
that. And
Yep.
you can click on it and it'll give you some information, some general information.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we link everything in the show notes, like all of Thurston's information, his IG, everything is his website. All of that will be in the show notes. Just scroll down and explore. And also, one of the other things I want to make sure I mention is that he also has a program where he essentially will, and let me know if I'm misspeaking or just correct anything I say that's incorrect.
Okay.
But he also has a program where he will you do a course with him. At the end of this course, you essentially have your first property. So he walks you through um, and kind of partners with you, almost kind of handhold you into getting your first property. And so this is a more like hands-on course. And thus, you can give any additional details or clarifications there.
Right. So, as Darlene said, I have a mentor program. So my mentor program is starting. The price is going to change. It may say something different on the website, but it's going to
Yep.
start at $4,000.
Yep.
That's my upfront fee. But I'm literally finding the deal for you, walking you through the entire deal, numbers, offers, finding a buyer, and to the closing table. We use my personal attorney that I close deals with to close the deal. I also just added, which I haven't really spoke too much about it, but now if you want to do a flip, I have everything set up for you to do a flip. I have the lender, I have
Whew,
the contractors, we help
nice.
you find the property, and that course is $10,000 up front.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody is really engaged in real estate and know, I mean, a flip can range, you can make 30 to $100,000 plus, depending on where you get the deal. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I have everything laid out. I've done that for a few people. I don't talk about it too much because I want people to learn wholesaling. Wholesaling is one of those things I want you to learn because through time, you become more and more wise with learning real estate. And I think you have to start at the ground level to learn. So, but
Yeah.
if you're somewhat, let's just say you had fun, right? Let's say, no, you say, hey, man, I want to do a flip. I got $20,000 I want to invest, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I have a lender for you. I have a contractor set up for you. And all we got to do is just find a deal. So that'll be something that I do is find you the property, find you the deal. Everything else is set up for you. I have everybody in line, everybody is on board, the lender, everybody is set up for you to do a flip. And I
Contractors and
personally make
everything.
sure. But
Contractors as well.
contractors, that's what I mean by what did I say? Did I say contract?
You might have said it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I know
I
you
don't know.
said lenders. You said your
But
lender,
yes,
attorney, everything.
the
Um.
lender, the contractors,
Yeah.
and agent too if you want. I have several agents that I work with, do business with. So the agent too, I have everything set up for you. So if you do
Yeah.
have some cash that you want to invest and you come to me, let's say you got $20,000, 10 will go down to me for my personal for doing this, and then we'll
Right.
take the other 10. It'll probably be down payment as far as the property or whatever.
That's beautiful. And this is just in the Southern Virginia kind of area, or is this
Yeah.
what are the limitations geographically?
Um, I would say from like Williamsburg area that involves like New Kent, Toano, up that road all the way to Virginia Beach. So
Okay.
Hampton,
Okay.
Newport News, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Suffolk, anywhere in this 757 region, we can do it. I have contractors set up, and so everything is laid out for you. So if you want to do that program, I have everything laid out. Lender,
That's beautiful.
everybody, because that's
Man,
the hardest part, by
that's
the
heavy.
way.
That's heavy duty. No, everything that he
So
just said. I mean, that upfront fee that that you're paying will save you that plus more, going
And making
into a
mistakes.
situation and exactly making
Yep.
mistakes on your first property. Uh, it will save you that much and more. And you guys know, I don't get very like salesy like on this podcast. I'm only gonna recommend something if I see there's actual true value. And myself, I'm one exam away from getting my real estate license. I already taken my courses and everything like that. And being around other people who are very experienced in real estate, uh, I,
It's
I
vital.
I can say that there's no BS here. This is
Mhm.
this is true value. It's to the point where some people come on my show and they get very, if they get too salesy, I have to kind of edit a little stuff out because I just
Correct.
don't really want that for my listeners.
Right.
So you guys know I only do this if there's true value. And so I 100% co-sign everything that's happening here. And maybe exploring some of this on my own as well with Thurston. So, uh, you know,
And to add just a little
yeah,
bit more context, and I'm not trying to sell myself, but
yeah,
if you go to my Instagram, I've done this for celebrities, a few
mm,
celebrities. I'm working with two. I'll mention one because she's a good friend of mine, but Francina McCory, she's a two-time Olympic gold medalist.
hey,
She's a good friend of mine. She went to Hampton University. We've known each other for a good while. And me and her have an operation together right now, and I'm walking her through her first deal.
wow,
Um, Another one that I've done, which is on my page, people have seen, is the rapper Pusha T, his wife, Virginia Williams.
hey,
I've
there you go.
found
Love me
her
some Pusha
deal,
T.
found her property, walked her through the whole thing, and I mean it turned out beautiful. So,
Wow,
some other people are more secretive; they don't want the name out there about that stuff, and I get it respectfully.
yeah,
Great working with you if you see this podcast, but I've helped quite a bit of people get into this space and reach some success. So. Just to
there
throw
you
that out
go,
there.
guys. I don't co-sign if it ain't legit. So
Mhm.
now you know. And so speaking of that, we were talking a lot about flips. But one of the questions that I got was actually someone who was curious on your perspective, as far as where do you lean, flips versus rental, like long term, rentals, like holding a property, that strategy versus Airbnb. Which is better and why?
So to be transparent, I don't have a preference, but the reason is my preference leans towards the market. So
Yeah.
the market changes so much. And let's say if people were leaning towards rentals in 2020, a lot of people stopped paying rent.
Mm,
To be
yeah.
real, you lose
Yeah.
money when
True.
people aren't paying rent. So as great as it is, I know people hear this method called the butter method, which is buy, renovate, rent, um, repeat. That's basically the Burr method. And you
Yeah.
buy a property, you renovate it, then you rent it out, you repeat the cycle and do it over. And oh, I'm sorry, it's buy, renovate, rent. Um, thing I just had in my mind. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and
Mm.
repeat.
I
That's the one
scratched
I
out
forgot. I'm
refi
sorry.
there. Okay.
Forgive me.
Refinance,
Refinance.
repeat.
So what that is you just refinance the deal. You buy it for, let's say you buy a deal for 50 grand, you put 50 into it, so you're all in at $100,000. And if that
Yeah.
property is worth $230,000 or 200,000, all you do is you refinance the deal. And so when you refinance it, they allow you to take up to 80% of that value. So 80, whatever 80% of 200,000 is, they allow you to take that out. And now you still get to keep the property and you're renting it out, but now you have that cash. So it's kind of
Mm.
like doing a flip, but you're keeping the profit in your pocket.
Right. Right.
But you just have to negotiate the deal. But um I right now prefer flipping. I'm in a phase of trying to gain as much capital as I can.
Yeah.
I hate dealing with people when it comes to rent 'cause people don't pay their rent, and I understand. I've been there where I've late on my rent, stuff like that, and I get it. I completely understand, but my patient level just doesn't allow certain stuff like that. in
That's real.
ways, and I'm
I'm
just
laughing, but it's real, man. It's real. It's real.
yeah, Lord forgive me. I know everybody goes through stuff, and I respect it. I've gone through
Yeah.
stuff. Me and my family have, but it's one of those things that I just like prefer. I'm not in the phase of my real estate career yet where I feel like, oh, I have to get a bunch of rentals. Not
Yeah.
just yet. So I'm
Sure.
trying to get my capital. I hate Airbnb, um,
Yeah.
because
Ooh.
now
Please explain.
just like anything, the world is putting stipulations on it. So certain
Mm.
cities and counties and whatever, they're putting so many stipulations on it that it's hard for you to make money from it. So
Mm. Yeah.
example, me and my partner, well, mainly my partner, we got this property and renovated it, decided to do an Airbnb. It was like 6 or 7 bedrooms, almost
Wow.
3,000
Yeah.
square feet.
Wow.
Beautiful property. And what happened was he renovated the main house and it had a detached garage in the back, and he renovated that to make it a whole separate space for Airbnb as well.
Wow. Oh my
Right?
gosh.
The city got wind of the Airbnb and started charging what's called hotel taxes. So they
Come
started
on, man.
charging exactly. So that made it non-profitable essentially. Because if you're paying taxes like you're paying a hotel, it just you're not making the same amount of money. So
Wow.
I know some people have some great success stories with Airbnbs, and I know there's millionaire people out there that, get these Airbnbs and they make a profit, but I don't know enough to get to that point. So I'm just giving my perspective. I know it's lucrative,
Yeah. Yeah.
but Airbnb is just kind of not my thing. Um, Maybe I'll
Sure.
get to the point of looking in other cities to do it, but here
Sure.
in the 757, it's not lucrative unless you own the property, you don't owe any money on it, and you can Airbnb it and you can make your money.
Yeah.
There are
Sure.
seasons where Airbnb is great, but then the other part of the season is not so great when people aren't
Yeah.
traveling here. So
Sure.
that's just my
Sure.
perspective. Nothing, no
That's
knock on
valuable.
anybody that's doing it.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And I think that it's important. That this is something that I really believe in as far as like getting multiple different perspectives, like not just hearing one person say something and then running with it. Like you probably hear a lot of people just really I guess talking really positively about Airbnb, and you want to take that and you know take from that what you can, but
Right,
also it's helpful to have other perspectives of people where it didn't go so great, because they might get into a situation where they're in a city or a municipality where they're getting that same hotel tax or something
right,
similar to that that makes it not as profitable. And it's important to be able to weigh all those things up front and to say, hey, let's count the cost. What are the things that we have to, consider? And do we still want to move forward? So I think that perspective is incredibly valuable. Um, and so um, we're getting towards the end of our list, but these last couple of questions are, I think really good.
okay.
Um, and so one of them is the main difference between arranging an occupancy rental agreement versus like a retail or a commercial agreement in your experience.
So, the occupancy between residential and commercial?
Yeah. So
Okay.
his specific question was, I guess the first part of that question was an occupancy rental agreement. I guess that's just he just means I know this person, and he just means because he has two properties right now. Both are residential, and he bought a house that his family is living in now, and he's renting out his condo that
Mhm.
he was living in, and then they also have a single family house that they're renting out. And he's like, hey, this feels really good getting a check from this renter. He's like, I want to keep going. I want to go look for my next property now. And I think
Mm,
he's just exploring the difference between you know that type of setup versus maybe like retail or just kind of commercial, and kind of
right,
the as he's weighing those two options.
right. I think commercial is probably the way to go because, especially if you get something already renovated. If you gotta make renovations, it make it a little bit harder, but if you get something which I have something for sale, a commercial building for sale,
Ooh,
but,
interesting. I will talk to you offline about this.
Absolutely. But it's renovated and everything. But the
Mm,
difference is commercial is more long term. So
yeah,
the lease is long term. So I know for this building that I have on a contract, the leasing agreement is a minimum 3 years, minimum three
yeah,
years, right? And
right,
obviously
right.
it's higher. It's because when it comes to commercial, it's based on a business plan and what your business model is. So if I go and rent out a space, let's say I rent the whole building, I pay 3 man a month, and there's 6 rooms, I can rent the rooms out. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
right,
that's why it's
right.
higher and the occupancy terms are longer. But residential, like I said, I'm not a big rental guy.
Yeah,
But it's when it comes to rentals and residential, it's really people. That's the thing you have to vent out and really
yeah,
that'll make your rental experience different. It's the people that you get. If you
yeah,
get responsible people, I think it'll make it a lot better. And you can do 2 year terms. That's kind of the longest I've seen for a residential. Is somebody signing like a 2 year lease. Obviously, you can do more, but
sure,
the
sure.
the standard is a year lease, maybe 2 years. And the difference is people, man. Really, on the
Yeah,
commercial side, the maintenance, everything falls on the people who are renting the building 90% of the
yeah,
time, unless you're just
yeah,
such a great owner that you want to make renovations for them. But everything is on them because it's a business they're running. Versus
right,
residential, you have to make repairs and stuff goes wrong, you gotta fix it or whatever the case may be. So that's the
right.
difference, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
So
That's great. That's very helpful. Um, and then someone who is looking to kind of learn some nuggets from your experiences in running a bit, running real estate company. They wanted to know, at what point did you know that you couldn't handle things on your own and you needed to build a team? And then kind of what systems or things did you put in place to help you run that business more efficiently?
that's a great question. I like that question. Whoever asked that
Yeah.
question, great. Because you got to get some very specific details.
I will say at this time that there are more questions that the Patreon group, which is the Contagious Collective, asked about their personal situations and how to get into and progress in real estate. But that will be released in the Patreon group. If you would like access, please join for $5 a month. It's a small fee, but it really does help support the podcast. Um, and with that, let's transition into the no regrets segment of the show.
Come on. Hey.
So the no regrets segment of the show is where myself and the guest has a chance, usually to listen to the entire episode and answer the question of one, what is something that you said on the show that you regret saying, and then two, what's something that you did not say on the show that you wish you did say. Now, typically, I would send you this episode, you listen to it and answer those questions for me, and I kind of record this segment on my own. But since we're live, we're just gonna do it live. I've been testing the waters with doing it live, and I'll kind
Okay.
of see if the listeners like this better. Um, so the first question, is there anything that you said on the show that you regret saying?
Um. So I probably regret saying the money aspect of it.
Sure, sure.
Because it just gives a false reality that everybody may not reach. So I regret
Mm,
saying the money aspect of, when I started in March and I made $50,000, that's just unlikely. A lot of people aren't going to make that, just to be honest. So I
yeah.
regret saying that. I'll take that one
Okay.
back.
That's fair. That's fair. And then for me, anything that I regret saying on the show, um, I don't. I feel like maybe I'll listen back to the question, or I was talking about like my partnership with my wife, and maybe I might regret saying something there if she's like, "Why'd you say
Yeah.
that?" You know,
Right.
like maybe I
Right.
don't know. So potentially there. Other than that. Other than that, I don't think so. For me. So moving on to the second question. Is there anything that you did not say that you wish you did say on the show?
Um, I don't know, man. I think we did a pretty good job of kind of touching all bases. I didn't
Yeah.
go in detail with like everything from the start to kind of where I'm at. Um, so maybe I could have went in depth a little bit more with how I got to where I'm at, but I think people got the gist of it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, I think for me, I regret that I didn't turn around and show the back of my shirt. But you know what? You can just go on the on the website
that's
and
that's
check
that's
that
that's
out.
that's that's
you
that's
know,
that's that.
and honestly, I don't have a ton of regrets because looking at my notes here, and shameless plug, if you're in the Patreon group, you're gonna get access to my actual episode notes that I have. Like this can be very different from the show notes. This is literally a complete list of all my notes for the show that you guys get access to. We covered everything that's in my notes here, man. I think there's really nothing that I wish I would have said.
You know what? There is something that I regret that I should have
Okay,
said
okay.
more.
There we go.
I do have
Let's
something.
let's say it.
So just so the people will know, like I said, I didn't speak a lot about it, but I have an undergrad in forensic science. I have a bachelor's
Mm,
degree, and I have a master's degree in science engineering. So
mm,
I say that to say a lot of people, this wasn't always like in my mind in the cards for me. Like
mm.
Darwin said, I think some point in the show, I planned on working in a field, a specific field to be
Yeah.
successful at life, and it just didn't happen fast enough. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. And this goes
Mm,
along with what you said about when should you quit or give up or
yeah.
whatever. I have to have multiple options. So me going to school and getting multiple degrees are my multiple options. If this
Mm,
fails today, I can go and get a job essentially,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably a high level job. You get me?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I kind of regret not speaking on that more because I think that's important for people to know. Like entrepreneurship is not easy. You must
Mm,
have a backup plan. Continue to grow within your backup plan, and take a shot at something if you want to do it and give it your all and be engaged in it. So yeah,
yeah. Well, I guess to second that, to piggyback on that, then my regret would be in my intro not throwing in that you had that that you
that's
had
that's
that the
that's that's,
degree.
that's, that's
I was like scrolling through your LinkedIn and I got like a good, the gist of like your background. But I definitely
right.
that would have been good to add in. So there's my regret. But folks, definitely follow us to stay up to date with the podcast. Subscribe. Follow us on social media at the Contagious Thoughts Podcast, pretty much everywhere. Um, and with that, Thurston, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you,
It was
man. I
a pleasure
appreciate you.
having you. I think that you're gonna see that you get a lot of positive feedback for all the value that you gave today. And I hope that our listeners really do reach out to you. And if you guys do, please come back and share your stories with me because I would love to just put that on display on the podcast for other folks to see the value that Thurston's able to provide. So thanks so much for joining, man. Loved
Thank you for
having you,
having me.
man. Much love, brother. And
Much love.
with that, folks, we'll catch you guys next time.